Welcome in, everybody, to the Summit City Sports Report. This is number 32 on the year. We got Tim Atkinson, as always, with us, and Hunter Sosenheimer joining us today as we're going to recap our week number 9 games and take a look at the first round of sectionals. So to start off, Tim and I were both over at Northside this past Friday, and boy, Tim, it was nice to see Carroll out on the field, and I really liked what I saw. Northside was in that game, till the very well. I guess they got into it a little bit in the fourth quarter, but you just saw Carroll starting to creep away in the third quarter with that lead. And they looked like a 6A school, and they also look like a team that's gotten a lot better since week 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tale of Jimmy Sullivan really leading the Carroll offense in that first half, and then Green got going, running the ball in that third quarter, and that really opened things up for the Carroll defense. Big shout out to that line there at Carroll. They were absolutely tremendous. Caden Nabbs, one of the best linemen that I've seen in a decade or so, and right up there with the Joe Titmans and those type of players. He's an outstanding lineman. Had probably one of my funnest blocks to ever see on that punt. That's gotten replayed a couple of times. I think Caden even grabbed it and posted it out where he just absolutely decleated a kid that was coming in to try to block a punt. But Jimmy's the real deal. There's no doubt about it. His touch pass and tight windows over defenders is next level. I mean, that's a big reason why he's D1. Also, his speed and his IQ running the ball, absolutely tremendous. I mean, they were really, really solid. This ball right here, I mean, you can't throw it any better. There was one on the sideline as well, going the opposite side, that he dropped it into Sheely. He is a very impressive quarterback. It was fun to see him. Watch him live, there's no doubt, because really they couldn't get any run going in that first half for Carroll, nothing consistently. But then that third quarter and Green really started to pump out some yardage for Carroll. It was a very impressive offense. I think their defense is really good as well. Newhouser and Jeffries, they are very, very sound defensively. For Carroll, Tristan Newsom, did Tristan Newsom type things. Here you see Asher Wagner just absolutely rip out that football right there. Northside did recover it, but that's another sophomore. We've talked about the sophomores all year long, and Carroll's right up with all the other schools with that outstanding 2027 class. But right there, I mean, he's shedding the block and then stripping pretty much at the same time. That's very impressive. But yeah, it was a good game. Northside had their opportunities. Penalties, once again, just absolutely killed Northside, especially in that first half. They got it going. Malik Moore got some good stuff going. He had a nice catch towards the end of the game. That right there, that play right there, that was an outstanding play by number 53 there for Carroll.
Brody Beeks.
Thank you, Beeks. Yeah. We said his name quite a bit. On the defensive side of the ball on Friday, Jeff. And, they're a very, very impressive squad. I mean, you see how the rest of that Carroll defense just strings it out there. They just, push their blockers and make the running back, this time the wide receiver, Malik Moore, make a decision. And that time he had to go back. Normally he's going to run away from folks, but great job by Beeks to contain on that far side, and then shows you the athleticism right there in that little burst of speed to bring a very tough player down. I mean, it was Carroll's legit. There's a reason they're the Summit Athletic Conference champions and went undefeated in the SAC. You see Green here with that good blocking, showing you the strength. Saw Will Jeffries run the ball a little bit as well. Of course, they were without Nate Starks, their all-time leading rusher, who did not play, and also their top wide receiver, Jaden Van Pelt, did not play for Carroll. So they were missing some pieces. Both these teams get a nice bye week that I'm sure they're ready for, and to move into the 5A for Northside and the 6A for Carroll. Carroll's playing really, really good football. Coach Dinan, tremendous job this year, and him and his staff. It was very, very impressive to watch Carroll live finally, as they'll head to Spooler to take on Northrop, setting up for a rematch there with Snyder, depending if they could get past Elkhart, because Elkhart, I think, only has one loss on the season. So Elkhart's not an easy out by any means. But that would be a nice setup for sectional, right back out there at Carroll with Snyder at Carroll. But yeah, Carroll, they're solid. They are really solid. Them and probably East Noble were probably the two best teams I saw all year live. I don't watch every game, so don't get on me. But in my eyes, watching from a press box, Carroll and East Noble were the two best teams in the area.
Yeah, and once again, Jimmy as a senior just looks so smooth out there, Tim. Very little wasted movement. Is that what you were seeing also?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Even when he's reading the block on his quarterback keepers and stuff, he's super patient. Nothing looks like it's, too much effort. That's because, like you said, he's just really smooth. He's smooth throwing the ball. He's smooth standing in the pocket. He's smooth, like I said, on his quarterback keepers and waiting for the lanes to open up and then showing that burst of speed. They are a well-rounded club, is Carroll. There's no doubt about it. When they go heavy backfield like this, and then Jimmy can play off of it, that right there, that's next level.
Yes.
He made two outstanding athletes miss for Northside, and as you said, Jeff, left awake in his run on that play. It was he is the real deal. I put him up there right with the top 2-3 quarterbacks I've seen live in the past 10 to 12 years covering the Summit Athletic Conference. He's special.
Boy, and I love that, Tim. That's a great question right there. Okay, if we had to name two, let's just say in the last 10 years, since we've really been covering the scene really hard, I think of Luke Goody.
Yep.
I think of Jeffrey Becker.
Yep.
Jimmy Sullivan.
Deuce Taylor.
And those are probably the four that jump out to me right away.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, there's that's a pretty good grouping right there. Hopper, the older Hopper, had a really good senior year, but just watching them play pure quarterbacks, Deuce Taylor and Jimmy Sullivan, Zach Terrell, I guess you could throw out there at Homestead.
A little bit before the 10 years, but yes.
Right. But those are top level quarterbacks that did some good stuff in college, and Jimmy's a Power 5. It was good to see Kingley. You see Caleb Kingley right there get going again for Coach Johnson, reading the block well and then doing what Caleb does, and that's make people miss. He is a special talent. You could see that he was still lingering with that ankle injury. There was a couple of times he was limping off the field.
It got tweaked, I think, in the second half.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, but he's special. There's not a lot of running backs, especially that are 15 years old or 16 years old, whatever he is as a sophomore, that has that type of speed, the quickness, the quick twitch, and then just the strength as well to break some of these arm tackles. Kingley, you never know. If he could have stayed healthy all year, Northside may have had a different win-loss record on the season. But they were very, very good. James Early played a nice game on defense for Northside as well. Malik Moore is absolutely the best player on the field for Northside when I watch him. He can do anything offensively and defensively. He's a very gifted player. Thanks, Zach. Isaac Stiebling. That's another good one.
Yeah.
But Jimmy, I think just rises to, he's top 2 in the players that we've named that I've seen live. It's probably Becker, him, and Deuce Taylor of the 3 best that I've seen. Just tremendous class of quarterbacks there. That's what a lot of the times what Carroll did. They are very opportunistic football team when it comes on the defensive side of the ball. Unfortunately for Eli Newhouser, that was his second tip that led to an interception. You could see him, he's happy for his club and getting the turnover, but as soon as that tip happens, he's shaking his head like, bro, I could have had 2 picks here tonight. right in front of Summit City Sports and got those highlights. But those balls wouldn't have been picked without Newhouser getting to it. That's the other thing. He is the real deal as a linebacker. Eli Newhouser is a kid that you're going to want to keep an eye on for the next, well, he's a sophomore now, so the next 2 years after this. He is a absolute beast. He's got the build, the perfect build for that Mike linebacker. And then you see Tristan Newsome. I mean, that right there. Tristan did a nice job getting out of the pocket, seeing the field, didn't dump it, saw man-to-man coverage, and went up top to Malik Moore, where Malik Moore is going to pull that in. I think the ball was in the air, still 10 yards away when Jeff said, yeah, he's bringing this down. He is a special player for Northside. And I can't wait to see his progression, Jeff, over the next 2 years. He's got basketball in the winter. I know their new baseball coach, Coach Lutz, is trying to get him back to play baseball as well. So we'll see what happens on that front. But yeah, it was a good game. Northside had their opportunities. It wasn't the score. I don't think mirrors the game that we saw. The final score, that is. Northside had their chances. I mean, that 3rd and 12 on the Carroll's opening drive, and then 3 straight defensive linemen jumping off sides. They went 3rd and 12 to 1st and 10, and didn't even snap the ball, did Carroll. That led to their first score of the game. So, the penalties, the Northside, if they want to advance in a regional, that if they can get past Concord, they have a great opportunity to do some damage in that 5A sectional and then in the regionals. So, but yeah, it was great crowd on hand. It was really good to see. It was a nice, cool evening, perfect for football. As you see the draw there, that getting past Concord is going to be absolutely tough. There's no doubt about it. They're the number 1 team in Class 5A. But Warsaw and Goshen, I think Northside would have an advantage over those 2 teams, to be honest with you. With their athleticism and Tristan Newsome as the signal caller. So if they can get past Concord, you never know what can happen. We'll probably talk to Coach Johnson next week about leading up to their game next Friday. So, but yeah, it was a great game, Jeff. It was always fun to be there out at Chambers Field, and yeah, slid right over the Acme, got a little food, and it was a nice evening.
Yeah, Tim had to open up the kitchen for us.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so if Warsaw would win this game, then Northside could potentially host both games in the sectional. So beyond that fast turf, remember, Concord plays on grass, so adjusting to Northside speed will not be easy for the number 1 ranked team in 5A.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jeff. People forget how much of an advantage it is for speed to be on turf instead of the grass. And if you can get past Concord and you're still on the turf, but yeah, I don't think Concord, they played some good competition up there in the northwest side of the state, but I don't know if they've seen the complete athletes that Coach Johnson has in his legends this year. Yeah,
no doubt. Well, Hunter, another breathtaking game here. Hunter, I swear, has gotten the best games this year. and really all of them include Southside. But the Archers nearly pulling off the dub. If they could have got that win, that would have been 3 in a row for the Archers. That would have been pretty amazing. But what a game, Hunter. I could tell you were super excited covering that one.
Yeah, it was a super fun matchup. It was back and forth, Northrop and Southside. So to keep in mind before we get started here, Northrop was missing 2 big pieces on their offense. They were without their starting quarterback in David Callison, who was in concussion protocol, which I'd assume he'd be back for the start of the playoffs there, holding him out that extra week. And then they were without their top wide receiver in Quay Guilford, who was suspended for this game, so did not get to play in this matchup against Southside. So that's 2 big pieces right there for Northrop that could have opened up this game a little bit. But the backup quarterback in Zane Harth, he's a senior there for Northrop, had a tremendous game through the air. You'll see some balls thrown here by him. This was an outstanding pass. This is to a freshman in Maddox Wheel. And for Wheel to pull that in double coverage, that was a tremendous catch. He is just a freshman, an outstanding grab there on that far side. That was
that one-handed?
Only grab of the night. Yeah, just a freshman, Maddox Wheel.
Was that just a one-handed catch, though?
No, he got it with two.
Yeah.
He did it.
Okay. He got it with two, right over the double coverage there. So an outstanding grab there for him. He had a tremendous night offensively. Just the one grab for him. But if you take a look at the stats from Zane Harth as a backup quarterback, was a phenomenal game there. 12 for 28, 144 through the air, through 2 touchdown passes. The running back and legend Relu got involved a lot. Junior, 93 yards there you see on your screen. Then they brought in Jamari Brown. Jamari Brown and Gabe Lewis did a lot of the receiving for Northrop in that game. Both had tremendous games there offensively for Northrop to get the 1-point win. Started out, both squads missed their opening extra points, so it made it a 6-6 game. And then Northrop was able to go and score in the third quarter on, I believe it was this ball here to Jamari Brown. Then went for 2 and got the 2-point conversion, made it 14-6. And then you'll see it here on your screen. It's going to be Murphy to JT Timberlake Johnson. We'll see if we can pull up the highlight here. A long ball to JT Timberlake Johnson, an outstanding receiver here for Southside. He's probably one of the less talked about receivers in the area, but he was a tremendous receiver here in this game. And that right there made it 14-13. Southside went on to miss the extra point, and then Northrop went on to make it a 19-13 or 20-13 game, and then Southside ended up going for 2, and that's what cost them the 1-point loss there.
Yeah, Robert Murphy, talk about him in this game. Did he pretty much go the whole way for Southside?
Yeah. So he went the whole way. They actually went and put KJ Alexander in the wide receiver position. So they're keeping him involved. Coach Goodwill is trying to give him some playing time too as well. An outstanding player, but showing the speed of Alexander. He had a few. They went with the end round on him too as well, and Alexander did a tremendous job there in the wide receiver position.
You guys, man, I just absolutely love JT Timberlake Johnson, number 2 here. We've been talking about him on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
I mean, his motor is always going. You know, you can see him get to a knee after the touchdown there, just a quick reflection. And I just feel like this is a great kid. And I believe he might be one of the more underrated players in the whole SAC. I know we talk about him a lot just because we've seen him on the basketball court. We saw him last year, had the 3-interception game against Concordia, but he is a very, very good athlete, you know, can get it done in multiple sports. And I love seeing him really show out at wide receiver in this game. You can see he really had no problem getting behind the defense. That's the second time there on 2 deep balls.
Yeah, the speed from him is phenomenal. He has grown a lot in the wide receiver position too throughout the year. Every game I've called for him, he's gotten a lot better and better each and every game. And it's going to be exciting to see what he can do against the East Noble defense there on Friday night in that sectional game.
Yeah, Hunter, and Ben Martone here says the call by the announcer on that catch was an all-timer. Hunter, is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a tremendous grab. Like seeing a freshman go up and grab the ball in double coverage is you don't see that nowadays in the varsity level. It was phenomenal.
Absolutely. Anything else you wanted to add from that game? Obviously, it was back and forth. Did you feel like, you know, Northside, did they play good enough to win that game, or did some things go their way? How'd you feel afterwards?
I mean, it was a good back and forth game, I feel like. I mean, Southside had a few opportunities to put it away. You'll see the interception from Anthony Harris at the 3-yard line. This was the final play of the game. This pretty much sealed the deal. I believe it was a 3rd and 3, and Southside decided to go with the pass there, and Anthony Harris comes up with the huge interception, and then Northrop just knees it out and wins the ball game the rest of the way there. So it was a big interception there by Harris.
Yeah, and I know the Northrop fans are really high on Harris as a defensive back. How did he look all game long?
Yeah, he looked pretty well. I mean, that grab right there is tremendous. He was going against JT Timberlake Johnson a lot of the game. So those two battling it back and forth was a tremendous contest between those two.
Absolutely. Thad, you had Leo, and holy moly, it was kind of a breakout game for Landon Hepner. We're going to play this play right here, 69 yards to the house. But did Leo show a little something different with Hepner, or just getting him more involved? How was he able to have so much success? I believe it was 4 touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns, 3 receiving. They did use him in like a wildcat quarterback type of formation late in the ball game, especially a little bit. I think early in the third quarter they used him in that capacity. But for the most part, he was lining up as a wide receiver, and his quarterback Grayson Esquera, he was getting him the football. You just saw him get him the football there on a little toss sweep.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, they were using him in the wide receiver position. They let him run in the wildcat, and that was basically how he got his touches. That was a great route on that particular play. He had another one where he absolutely burned the DeKalb defense, and he was wide open, maybe even more wide open than he was on that last one.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it looks like here's the hat trick right here. Is that the other one you were talking about?
Yep, that's it. And he had that must have been 3 or 4 steps on the defender on that one play. Once he got into the secondary, that was just an excellent route again that Landon Hepner ran. And he was running great routes for a good portion of the game. I will say this about Leo. They got themselves behind the sticks a number of times, and the big plays were able to get him in the end zone. It was just about every touchdown was one big play, another big play, big pass play, toss sweep, and they kind of had to get themselves out of some holes, and they also had trouble with ball security. I think Leo had, somebody said they had 4 or 5 fumbles. They had 4 fumbles at one point, eventually became 5. There was the one that they got back, but they had 4 lost fumbles in that game. So I think if anything, if Jason Dorfler had anything that he wanted to say to those guys, hey, here's something we got to fix, that would be it, is the ball security.
Yeah, that's interesting. Grayson Esquera, arguably the best game of his career here, 9 of 13, 197 yards, 69% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 0 INTs, a 151.4 QBR. Boy, it seems like he's taken a big step forward.
It sure has. I think he's definitely their traditional drop back quarterback, if you will, and he was efficient. He found the open receiver. He showed that he had the arm strength. He could get the ball down the field, and I definitely think he showed a little bit of something in that game against DeKalb last night, or not last night, this past Friday.
Yeah, this past Friday. How about DeKalb there? Caden Hinkle, has had a great career over there for the Barons. Looks like he had 2 yards rushing on 10 carries. That's just that stout defensive front 7 there with the sophomore Brett Sauter at linebacker, and then obviously Brock Schott and Jared Jasper and the rest of those guys.
Well, yeah, that you just basically hit the nail on the head. Leo's defense kept Caden Hinkle in check. They would hand the ball off to him. He would have absolutely nowhere to go. The Lions' penetration was excellent. Jared Jasper, they had him at the middle linebacker position, and he shot through the gaps like nobody's business. I mean, there were a couple times where it seemed like nobody was able to block him. And another guy who had a big night was defensive lineman Tristan Roberts. Yes. Stat sheet wise, he only had 1 tackle for loss. However, just about every time that somebody was touching the ball for DeKalb, it seemed like Roberts was in the backfield creating havoc and coming up with a play. I mean, it was a team effort all night long from that Leo defense. Roberts was a big part of that.
Yeah, and there you see big Brock Schott getting a sack there on that bobbled snap. So, yeah, these two teams play each other again this week, except for it's at DeKalb. Hunter's going to have that game. Do you think DeKalb can get back in this game?
Well, it does help a little bit that they've seen Leo live. I mean, obviously they've seen him on game film, I'm sure. It helps a little bit that they've seen him live, but so helps them understand, okay, here's what we need to do to free up our running game. Here's what we need to do to protect against DeKalb. But by the same token, Leo, they've seen what DeKalb has to offer, and if I know anything about that team, Leo's going to be well prepared, and those big guys up front are going to be ready to go against that DeKalb offense. I mean, yeah, it's second time around, but Leo definitely looked like the stronger team, and they very well may be come Friday night. Who knows what'll happen? DeKalb certainly has a chance, and remember, DeKalb took Garrett, a really good football team, into overtime. Unfortunately, that's the best they've done against some of the better teams that they've faced.
Do you think Leo and DeKalb, do you think they both showed everything they had to one another? I know they're playing each other back-to-back weeks. Do you think they put all the tricks out there, all the plays out there, or do you think they kind of just held some plays back? I know you've seen Leo and DeKalb quite a bit this year.
Well, this is actually my first time covering Leo or DeKalb this year, but I'm going to guess that there's probably still some tricks that they haven't pulled out of the bag. I mean, we saw some tricks on Friday night with having Landon Hepner at the Wildcat, but I don't think it's the first time we've seen that this year. We had Brock Schott running the football, kind of, and I made the comparison to Peyton Hillis during the broadcast. He was more like a Mike Allstott type of running back. I mean, he was just running guys over and was plenty capable of that when he was carrying the football. This might be his touchdown here. Yep, that's it. Yeah, straight up the middle. Let the tight end carry the rock. Let the wide receiver take the snap from the Wildcat. So we saw that. Maybe there's a little bit more something in the bag of tricks for Leo. Maybe DeKalb wasn't reaching into the bag of tricks yet. Maybe they will this coming Friday. We'll see.
Yeah, going back to Hepner, it says he has 5 rushing attempts in the game, 0 passing attempts. So how many plays would you say he was in at Wildcat? 5 or more?
I think it was about 8, because I remember him handing the ball off to Brock Schott a couple of times. But other than that, it was just take the snap and run with the football. Yeah, he did not throw the football. It was clear that they weren't using him in that capacity. Either that's because they don't think that Landon Hepner is ready to drop back and throw the football, or maybe because they trust Grayson Esquera and that he's growing in that capacity, or maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, and Thad, I know you're on your way to Bible study, so I'm just going to go to your sectional game real quick, because you're going to be at East Noble for East Noble in Southside in that extremely tough sectional 19. What have you been finding in your research and preparation for this game?
Well, definitely we know that East Noble has the two-headed monster, if you will, at running back. We talk about Dylan Krell, and he deserves a lot of it. Dallas Plattner is also having a really good season, kind of as the backup to Dylan Krell. I know I reached out to Alex Stewart leading up to that game, and he's got plenty of good things to say about both those guys. They're similar as far as their ability goes. So on the south side end of things, you're going to have to pay attention to the running game no matter who's in, whether it's Krell or Plattner. The defense for East Noble is very good. They obviously, we know about their big win against Columbia City. Columbia City scored 14 points. It honestly wasn't even that close, to be honest with you, because East Noble got that into a running clock early on and held them scoreless for a whole half. They got big guys up front that can do the job. Kobe Ritchie is one of them, leader in tackles for loss. Dylan Krell is another one. He plays both sides of the field. You're likely familiar with that. I think the guys up front for East Noble will have a huge effect on things. One guy for Southside that from watching, have been impressed with is Chris Moon. Now, he's only averaging, 2.8 yards per carry, but I had the game against Wayne earlier this season, and they used Chris Moon a good bit in that game. He's a downhill runner, runs into contact. He's not afraid to go up against contact. So I think there's definitely ability there, despite what the stats show for Chris Moon. I think he's likely going to be a weapon at some point in that game. I know they got Javon Irby and Josiah Malone, and those guys are going to get their touches. But when Moon's in the backfield, I think he can do a lot of good things for that football team.
I'll tell you what, Southside's not playing. They got their stats up on max preps and everything. So this is a good sign for this team that's really provided some good moments in the 260 this year, as Hunter can attest. Hunter, what are your some of your favorite Southside memories from this season so far?
I would obviously say the Blacks PAT 2 weeks ago was probably the best memory. Josiah Malone on the fake punt to score that touchdown. I actually asked the Southside coaching staff before that game against Northrop last week. I asked them, I was like, "Hey, was that fake punt from Josiah Malone? Was that like scripted, or did he just take off with it?" They said they gave him the risk, and he just took off with it and ran it in for that touchdown to win that game. So those two plays are probably my two tops there for Southside this year.
Okay, no, that sounds good. Going back to this past Friday, some of the guys aren't here. We had Fremont at Black Hawk, Snyder at Wayne. Landon was on that one, and Adams Central at Woodland. Jaron had the call there. But Adams Central obviously doing what they do. Same with Snyder at Wayne and Fremont over Black Hawk. So, but yeah, let's get back into it here. Looking at this week. Yeah, that's what I thought, Hunter. Looking at this week, Tim, you got the game, man, over at Dwenger. Not only is the press box going to be packed, but we believe Shields Field will be packed as well. Columbia City's going to bring it. Dwenger always brings it. We were joking around with head coach Brett Fox yesterday. Where is everybody going to park? So I guess the shopping centers are on notice here not to tow anybody, and they'll bring them some business here in the future from Columbia City. But yeah, Tim, what are you thinking right now? I know we still have to talk with Coach Garrett, and we still got some time to reflect on this one, but it's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this one come Friday night to open up sectional number 19. Arguably the best opening game in Northeast Indiana in week one. I think this is going to be a defensive battle. We talked a little bit about that last night after we talked to Coach Fox, but the defenses on both sides of the ball, I think, are going to have to play really well and stopping the run on both sides. I think Dwenger probably has a little bit of an advantage on that defensively with the amount of players and speed that they have defensively. But when you look at Columbia City's numbers and their offensive output throughout this season, I mean, a couple 42-point games, a 50-point ball game, the over 70-some point game against New Haven. As you take a look right there, I mean, one was 61, 67. I mean, just absolutely tremendous, especially when you're talking about how they don't throw the ball very often at all. All these points are coming off mostly running the ball with Landon Fazio. I knew I was going to do it. With Landon Fazio, Stratton Fuller getting those touches on those sweeps. And, I think it's going to be a very tough battle on both sides of the ball. I think whose ever defense can stop the strength, which happens to be the strength on offense for both teams, is the run game. So this could be a quick game, with a lot of running, and I expect it to be a lower scoring ball game. But these types of games that are very, very competitive between the two clubs as far as talent wise, it's who's the superstar that's going to step up. Columbia City has one of the best in the state of Indiana in Stratton Fuller, both offensively and defensively. Is it going to be him? Is it who on offense? Is Gus Tippmann going to be able to break out running the ball? I expect Dwenger, maybe to have a little bit more heavy set backfield, maybe with two fullbacks, Fabini and Shefferly, or a Shefferly and Pelkington, with Tippmann running behind them. Maybe even try to get Brady O'Keefe some touches in the run game as well. Bishop Dwenger will be out without Max Jordan, their junior quarterback that started the season. Nick O'Keefe, the sophomore, will be the signal caller for Coach Garrett. And I like his progression over the season. When he's had his opportunities, that Snyder game, he did miss some passes, but he didn't look like he was shaky at all. He looked like he was confident and comfortable in that offense for Dwenger. So I think the defense on who can stop who the easiest, and then the special teams game. You got to give the advantage of special teams game to Bishop Dwenger, obviously. Lucas Wynn, a Division I caliber place kicker. He can drill them from 50 yards. He is touchback city as well when they kick off. So not having a return game and a possibility for that would be tremendous weapon for Carroll. But is it Bradbury? Could Bradbury step up? Can Gavin Smith get you a pick or, something in that backside of that defense? He's an outstanding safety, one of the best in the Northeast State Conference in Gavin Smith. So, turnover battle, of course, it's all the cliches, but I think it's really going to be up to which defense can stop the run the easiest and get that offense off the field and get their own offense back on the field. So that going along with that, field possession. Field position is going to be absolutely huge. And I do know that the younger Jordan, who's been kicking since Braden Geary had surgery and is out for the rest of the year, he's had some outstanding punts. I know right off the top of my head, just because it was from a couple of weeks ago against Snyder, where he boomed that ball over Brandon Logan's head. I think it ended up being like a 65-yard punt. This is not a true punter. He's just an athlete back there punting. The special teams advantage you would think would go to Dwenger. You saw the blocked field goal in that Leo game with Columbia City. So, you could say that's a strike against them. But, listen to Coach Fox talk last night. Jeff and I, it was one of our longest conversations because he's an extrovert. He mentioned it himself. He likes to talk to people, and he is, you can see why his kids want to run through the wall for him. He is a very, very good communicator. And I love to talk to him last night. We'll hopefully talk to him again, but this game, I think it's going to be a one possession game. We'll see who can make that one play to put their team over the top. Could have come down to a field goal late. We'll see what happens, but yeah, the stands are going to be packed, Jeff. It's not a lot of room parking. They're going to be walking across Washington Center. There's no doubt about that. So hopefully everybody gets back to their car and they're all still there and still on the same spot. But it's going to be kind of hard to tow, 1,000 cars at one time because they're going to pack them in there at Shields Field, both on the Columbia City side. And, of course, Bishop Dwenger always brings it on their home side.
Yeah, and Fazio was Coach Fox's pick to click there on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
Averaging 9.5 yards per carry with 79 carries on the season. That's a pretty impressive stat there.
Yeah, and I think Coach Fox said the Columbia City record is like a 10.1 or 10.2, something like that. So, yep, thank you. Yep, and he's, that's pretty special, especially when the defense knows their opposing defenses know that they're not wanting to throw the ball. They want to run the ball. So those stats right there make it even more impressive to me, Jeff.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Tim, to make is that Dwenger has not seen this kind of offense this year. And it's one of those things. I remember when Bob Davie took the New Mexico job, he decided he was going to run the triple option just because he remembers preparing for Navy when he was at Notre Dame as a defensive coordinator, and what a pain it was to just totally change your defensive scheme for the week of the triple option. Because once again, and we had talked with Coach Stewart earlier in the year about this when they were taking on Columbia City, this is a game where you 100% have to play your assignment. Basically these guys are going to have a guy and that's what they're going to have to focus on all game long.
Yeah. So, and can Coach Fox and that offensive staff keep, Dwengers, they're going to want to pin their ears back and go. Ellinger and Dylan Tittman and the linebackers and Groves and Peter Thiel and Pori, they love to come. They love to absolutely rush quickly with abandonment. Can you see some screens, a little bit more screen action start happening? Maybe some play action rollouts with the quarterback keepers. We'll see what happens, but You could see Columbia City trying to use that aggression of that Bishop Dwenger defense that we've seen all year against them, which is kind of what I expect.
Yeah, and you wonder how much aggression can really work in this game, because normally you're used to seeing a wide receiver, or a running back 6 yards off the ball, or in a pistol alignment sometimes close to 8 yards. In this game right here, that fullback is 3 yards off the line of scrimmage, and Bradbury's under center, so it's really quick hitting.
Yes.
Which is and Coach talked about Eastbrook.
Yep.
And we went through Eastbrook and their history, and it's just loaded with sectional championships and regional championships, looking like a Bishop Dwenger or a Lures or a Snyder in that capacity with those team accolades. But yeah, you just kind of, I know some people don't like the offense because you're not throwing the ball as much. I've even heard that from some of the Woodland guys.
Yeah.
But Coach is right. It does fit the personnel.
Yeah, I mean, that's, Coach Fox said it, it's not sexy, it's not, we're not whipping the ball around. He said when he came into Columbia City, he wanted to be a spread team, but he had to adjust, after that losing record. That was a disaster for him to start his career at Columbia City. He talked to his own old coach from Eastbrook. He came down, they talked about, what kind of personnel do you get here at Columbia City? And Coach Fox says, I don't think we can match up wide receiver, the skill positions like some of the other schools, or when we get into a sectional that we're going to see. So let's try to play for, Adamson. That's a good guy to go to, 36 years coaching, 319 wins. So, that's tremendous. But, you got to adjust. You got to give credit to Coach Fox for adjusting what he intended to have this Columbia City program to what realistically it is, and look at the wins that's happened since then. So I absolutely love it. But this sectional 19, Jeff, the winner of this ball game will most likely play Wayne, barring a New Haven perfect game against Wayne, which if Columbia City wins, that ball game will be at Columbia City, which would be absolutely huge for that community out there. But this is, obviously, we talk about sectional 19 so much because it is so loaded. You could have an East Noble, Leo, Dwenger, or Columbia City against Wayne in that Final Four, which leads to a perfect sectional championship. You get the rematch at East Noble and Leo. That's always going to be exciting. But this sectional 19, and they'll play the winner of sectional 20. Which Culver and Lebanon are the two talented teams with the best record in that sectional. They play each other in the first round. So one of the best teams in that sectional will be eliminated in that first game. Then you're moving on in Huntington North. I think they get through Frankfurt. I think they get to through Marion. So they're sitting in sectional 20. The final, will it be Logansport? Will it be a Culver or Lebanon? But I think whoever that team is, that sectional number 19 winner is going to feel really, really good about their chances to move on to a semi-state and winning regional.
Yeah, that's a great point. And if you folks have not seen the interview with Coach Fox, definitely check it out, because probably about 20 minutes in, we start talking about the playoffs and how that could be changed and could be different.
Yeah,
and
he came up with some good stuff. He's definitely thought about it some.
He's very smart, and he's a thinker. He thinks through a lot of different situations, and it's really fun to hear him talk.
Yeah, and not afraid to speak his mind. He's not worried about ruffling feathers or whatever. And I appreciate that. It's he's going to speak how he feels, and I give credit to anybody that does that. There's no doubt about it. Of course, in a respectful manner. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But Coach Fox, he was. There's a reason that it was almost an hour and a half. We talked. Now, it was the first time we were able to talk to him all season as well, but. Yeah, he great guy. This sectional is so tough. I think it's going to prep whoever wins sectional 19 to catapult themselves to a semi-state. When then the semi-state, you never know what can happen. You just get there and figure it out from there. But this whoever wins sectional 19 they could make that run to Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, most definitely, Tim. And, going ahead and looking at this, East Noble advantage, Leo advantage. They play at Leo. Wayne advantage. This is the only game right here where you're just like, I've been thinking all the way up until Columbia City's last 2 weeks, but up until then, I was thinking that it was East Noble and then kind of Dwenger and Wayne, and then really just East Noble and Dwenger. But now I think Columbia City is right there with Dwenger. I still think East Noble's the favorite for this sectional.
I would agree with you. Like I mentioned when we were talking about our games last week, Carroll and East Noble are the two best teams I've seen all year, besides Lawrence North. So we ain't got to worry about them, you know. But yeah, I agree with you 100%, Jeff. I think it's still East Noble sectional to win or to lose.
Yeah, and I just wanted to pull this up real quick. So Zach Welklin says, isn't Elkhart Stadium around 7K capacity? 100% it is. Last time I was there, Coach Brevard in Northside had lost to Elkhart Memorial. That was a year before they combined the two schools. So now Elkhart Central and Memorial are combined, and they still play at Memorial Stadium. This is an old school stadium right here.
Right.
And it reminds you of Mishawaka.
Yeah, it does. It looks a little bit more open than Mishawaka, and that may be just because of the neighborhoods surrounding it makes it feel at Mishawaka a little bit more enclosed. But that's pretty right there. See if Snyder can go up there and shock them up in Elkhart.
It's one of those where that you can sit underneath the press box, just like Mishawaka.
So it is. Yeah, that's exactly like Mishawaka. Yeah, the old school fans at Mishawaka, they got dibs on those seats. We were there a couple years in a row. It's the same older people that are making sure they got that cover in case it's raining or what we've seen sometimes in the past, a little bit of snow.
So, and Hunter, just so you know, it's One Blazer Boulevard because Snyder is heading to Elkhart next week, and Hunter Sosenheimer is stoked about that game.
Yes.
But first, Hunter, you have Leo at DeKalb. So we talked to Thad. We saw what happened last week. It definitely seems like Leo has picked it up a notch since their last loss against Columbia City, handling business there in week number 9. Obviously, I think a lot of people probably had them as a favorite for sectional 19 before the season even began. They're not a favorite right now in most people's eyes, but I don't think Leo much cares. They have 2 Division I guys on that team, including Brock Schott, who could pretty much go anywhere in the country that he wants to go to. He has chose the University of Miami as a skill position player, wide receiver / tight end. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this game over at DeKalb?
I mean, I'm super excited to see Leo. I went back and watched a little bit of tape, and I'm just super excited to see that defensive line there from Leo. Brock Schott leading the way. You just got all the pieces all the way around. You got Foster at the running back position. Yes. You can use Brock Schott almost anywhere on the field. Landon Hepner with the game he had last week, I was just like, holy smokes, 4 touchdowns in one game. That was a tremendous game there by him.
Yep.
So just super excited to see what they can do all the way around with their offensive pieces. I mean, those 3 guys right there can be used almost anywhere on the field, and I'm super excited to see those 3.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Foster because I honestly think that Nate Foster has probably been the most consistent running back. When you look at it from a game-by-game basis, his lowest yardage output's 81 yards, and that's only on 4 carries.
Yeah, look at that. Even last week against DeKalb, 2 carries for 98 yards.
Oh
it just shows you what he can do. Tremendous stuff there by Foster this year. So
and Justin Jr.
He's lightning in a bottle, man, for sure. But this is a tough question. Is Foster the running back of the year in Northeast Indiana, or do you have to give it to Seth Pruitt because Seth Pruitt from West Noble probably ends up as the program's all-time leading rusher, but he was somewhat slowed down in that Garrett game. You can see Foster, nobody has been able to slow him up.
Yeah, those are some big-time numbers right there.
Bishop Lewis couldn't do it.
No, that's a tough call, Jeff, for sure. Yeah, it's a 1A,
Noble couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's a 1A, 1B. Yeah, he without Foster and running that ball against East Noble, it would have been a blowout. Yep. They couldn't really do anything in the passing game against East Noble. It was Foster breaking those big runs.
He had a 75-yarder in that game. His second longest run of the season, had an 80-yarder against DeKalb. So, guys, we're going to have to work on that in the offseason, putting together for every position group who we feel is our number one player. So,
yeah,
it'll start with all the guys that were on the round table tonight. So we got to cut it a little short tonight, guys, because we got Coach Jason Garrett coming up in 9 minutes. But, Hunter, just reflecting back on the regular season, some of the highlights and maybe some of the lowlights that come to your mind right away. I mean, I know that's kind of a tough question, and you talked about the blocked field goal at Southside. What are some of the moments, key moments that really stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I called Southside a lot this year, and so them getting that win over Lures, the 1-point win. A shout out to AD Curry, who's calling me the Southside broadcaster now. So, but you get that right since Friday. So there we go. We'll hand it over to you for Friday night. But yeah, that 1-point win against them was probably one of the best games I saw all year round. I mean, the home opener against Marion that they had that went to overtime too. But just seeing how Southside has improved throughout the year, from calling them throughout the whole entire regular season, almost just seeing how they've improved throughout the year was a big highlight for me.
Yeah, Tim, I'll go real quick.
Yeah.
Some of the highlights, and Tim and I share a lot of these, but seeing the 6A schools, that defense from Warren Central, Lawrence North, all around their team, including their quarterback, was just special. Landon Fry moving to that fullback position and what he's able to do and how he can affect a game as a fullback. I mean, you don't hear that talked about a lot, but boy, he's a real difference maker for sure. Jimmy, man, just so polished. And obviously that was just from last week. The continuity of East Noble, when you look at 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense, it is really, really special. Coach Fox remarked on it that, a lot of these guys started as sophomores and they took their licks. That's for sure. So those are some of the things that really stand out to me. The start of the season for Caleb Kingley was a lot of fun.
The 154 yards in the only half against Lawrence North. That was week 2. Tremendous.
Which is just nuts because Lawrence North, that defense is the real deal over there.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah, there's the thing that really sticks out to me is just the amount of injuries that have happened this year. Not particularly on one team, but all over the Summit Athletic Conference, the Northeast State Conference, and the next man up mentality that I have absolutely appreciated so much this year. Because you go in, you're thinking, oh, well, this superstar's hurt. We're not going to get to see him tonight. And then another kid on the roster that's, down on the depth chart plays a wonderful game. So, that's what sticks out to me are the amount of injured players, but the kids that have stepped up in place of them really, really made me proud as a 260 guy with having that next guy ready to step in when your teammate that may be ahead of you in the depth chart goes down. You're not sulking. You get out there, you practice every week, and you wait your turn. And when you get it, you take advantage of it. Absolutely love to see it. That and Tristan Newsom moving to quarterback. What a great story that is. Tremendous kid, and he's done a great job.
Yeah, Kemar Nelson on both sides of the ball, leading the state in sacks. Did not play last week, but I'm sure he's going to be 100% ready to go against New Haven.
Yep.
And you got a rested Kemar Nelson that could potentially face off against Columbia City or Bishop Dwenger in that week too. That could be a lot of fun. And Tim, what you were talking about there, next man up, I don't know that we've ever seen so many great sophomores.
Huge.
In this area.
Yeah. The sophomores in all sports and especially football, the 2027 class, wait till these kids are seniors. It is going to be some dynamite stuff in Northeast Indiana. And I smell some state titles coming here for the Fort Wayne schools here in the near future, if not starting this year.
Just real quick, Hunter, you're player of the year right now, and this can change in 2 weeks, but right now.
Ooh, that is a tough one for me. Keymar Nelson has had a tremendous year for Wayne, but if I had to go tops out of everybody I've watched, I'd say Jimmy Sullivan. Jimmy Sullivan's my top candidate right now.
Tim?
I would agree. Jimmy Sullivan would be one in my opinion, but there's a couple that are really scratching close.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stay with Krell too, just with what East Noble's been able to accomplish this year, and I think a lot of this will unfortunately end up on what happens in the postseason. But we will see, and we will have that conversation later on for everybody. But thanks so much for joining us, folks, and tune back into our new YouTube event here, the interview with head coach Jason Garrett.
See you, everybody.
We'll see you. I'll be